So what's up YouTube? This is David. In today's video, I'm going to share with you how to set up an application load balancer with just your EC2 instance in the private subnet. As you can see from this diagram, I've created, nothing's changed except that I added a private subnet in two availability zones. We have one in US East 1A and the other one in US East 1B. Technically, as a web server, they are not supposed to expose to the internet. For this EC2 instance to accept updates or internet connection, we need to give it a NAT gateway. Attach one. For having attached a NAT gateway into a public subnet, this EC2 instance in the private subnet will have access to the internet. Let's do the creation of NAT gateway first. Test ALB workshop NAT. It has to be in a public subnet, so I'll choose public subnet 1A, and I don't have an elastic IP address, so I'll let it create one. Right now, you have created a NAT gateway in your public subnet, but this is not enough. You need to give it a route table. Let's look at the two private subnet that we created, and we add the NAT gateway in their route table. Let's choose private subnet 1A and look at the route table. Let's make some adjustment. Okay, so is the one that we created. Okay, it is active, so nothing is wrong. Let's go in and check. Okay, make sure it's okay. So this is for the route table for private subnet A. So let's do the same for private subnet B. Okay, so right now we make changes on the route table for private subnet B and they're working fine. Let's proceed to create the instance for this private subnet A and private subnet B. Let's call it test ALB workshop private A. I like Linux 2. It doesn't give me any issue right now at the moment. For network settings, let's move on and make sure we select the correct VPC, but this time we choose private subnet A. Let's choose the correct security group. Let's choose the correct security group. Let's make some changes to the startup script and make sure our Apache Web Server is being downloaded. Okay, let's move on to create the instance in the private subnet B. Let's choose the same one, Amazon Linux 2, the correct VPC workshop. For the PAM key pair, ensure that the VPC is selected correctly, but this time we choose private subnet B. Let's make sure we choose the correct private facing. Let's make sure the Apache server is being deployed upon setting up this instance. While waiting for this to be ready, these two instances that I created are located in the private subnet. They won't have any public IP address. As you can see from the screen here, they only have private IP address. There is no way we can tell whether the web server is up and running. The only way is we create the targets for the group. There is no sign that the instance are being called upon because the application load balancer is not active. Move on to make it active. Let's call it test ALB workshop private. Make sure the VPC is selected correctly. Well, for this case, because private subnet doesn't have a public IP address, we still select it in the public subnet. Choose one of this. Make sure the target group are being selected correctly. Let's launch. Before we can make it work, we have to ensure that the security group allows the application load balancer to be. Let's make changes. Let's add all traffic. Let's select the NAT gateway security group. I'll disable this because this is the same, and if it doesn't work, we'll come back to it. So right now, let's look at whether the application load balancer is working. It's still in provisioning mode, so we have to wait then. So let's recap. What have we done? We have created a NAT gateway to allow the EC2 instance to have access to the Apache Web Server to pull the deployment down. Everything goes correctly, we can disable this NAT gateway and the application load balancer will still be able to reroute the traffic to the instance in the private subnet. Still early, but let's try. It works. So as you can see, this is from private subnet B, and if I refresh, this is from the private subnet A. Are they being redirected because of NAT gateway? Right now, I'm gonna prove that it is not, and I will disable the NAT gateway or remove it. The NAT gateway is basically for the EC2 instance to pull the necessary configuration for the Apache Web Server. So if I remove it, it should not affect what we have set up. And the elastic IP address is not free, so I have to make sure that it is released. I can't do that now because the NAT gateway is still being... Okay, let's take a look at the target group. It shows that both instances are... Let's do a refresh. Okay, it works. So right now we have the AWS application load balancer redirecting the route traffic, redirecting the traffic to the instance in the private subnet. This is very important in terms of security because you do not want the internet to have access to your EC2 instance. So this is one way where the application load balancer act as a reverse proxy to redirect all the traffic to the instance in the private subnet. In my next video, I'm going to share with you how to make the application load balancer to have a HTTPS, which is good in the sense that it creates an encryption for all your incoming and outgoing communication. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.